All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr. and what he said about a potential fight with Keith Thurman taking place if the Terence Crawford fight falls through. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, I'm going to have a gripe with one of my favorite fighters in boxing, and that is the great Errol Spence Jr. Man down strap season, all of those great things out of the great city of DeSoto, Texas. He has recently made a comment regarding Keith Thurman after speculation that because Keith Thurman has moved up to the #1 position with the WBC, that he may have to fight Errol Spence Jr. if the Terence Crawford fight does not come through. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you for continuing to support the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, to hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so a whole lot of people think that I am 100% positively behind Errol Spence Jr. and everything he says, he does, and he thinks. And for the most part, dude, I cannot lie, big fan of the guy, like the way he moves in the sport of boxing. But on one isolated issue, I do not see eye to eye with him. Or actually, yeah, I do not see eye to eye on him in one particular issue. Now, what is that issue? The issue is Keith Thurman. Now, first things first, Errol Spence Jr. Is the welterweight champion of the world and is looking for the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF welterweight champion. And he has been very, very adamant that he wants to fight Terence Crawford next. From all outward appearances, it looks like Errol Spence Jr. is doing everything that he can do to make that fight take place. He said, look, if that fight does not take place, do not blame me. Blame other people, because he is doing everything he can to get that fight. He has also been somebody that has fought champion after champion after champion, even though he has done so under difficult circumstances for himself, like being in a car accident or tearing his retina over his eye, not over his eye, suffering a detached retina in his eye, right? And coming right out of that and still fighting world champions or ex-world champions and really, really top level guys. So as far as all of the boxers that are out there in boxing and guys that are trying to make really, really not just trying to make, but are actually making the best fights out there that they can make at any given time, along with Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence Jr. is right up there at the top of the hill. So do not get what I'm saying is some mass criticism of him, because it's not. However, he says with Keith Thurman, it's never going to happen. He put out a tweet yesterday and said, when I said never, I meant it. As in, it is not going to happen. I'm not going to fight Keith Thurman. Now, why wouldn't he want to fight Keith Thurman? Wouldn't want to fight Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman did not fight him when Keith Thurman was the WBA and the WBC champion. Errol Spence Jr. was calling for fight, calling him out, and he just refused to do it. He just brushed off the questions, right? And it was kind of insulting about it at the time. Like, yeah, son, you know, when you're ready, when you get a little bigger, that type of attitude. So early portion of Errol Spence Jr.'s career, he was aiming heavily at Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman wouldn't fight him. Danny Garcia wouldn't fight him, and neither would Sean Porter wouldn't fight him. So he had to go over there to the UK, fight on a matchroom card, fight Kell Brook over there in the UK. So in a situation where pretty much he was going in there with needed a knockout to win, but he got the knockout, broke his orbital bone, came back, and the rest is history. He's been reigning in that division for the last 5 years, where Keith Thurman's career has kind of went the other direction, right? So what he's saying, look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm not fighting him. Now, this is where I go sideways with that. That's not, as a boxing fan, that's really not my problem. You know what I mean? And there's a finite number of really good fights that can be made that are interesting fights that can entertain boxing fans. So while I understand 100% why Errol Spence Jr. himself would say that, as a boxing fan and somebody that really, doesn't get anything out of it other than just the joy of seeing fights take place, I would rather see him fight that fight. And to hold the grudge over the fact that Keith Thurman did not originally give him that fight, to me just seems like, it's understandable from the viewpoint of somebody that is, that really, feels like they were done wrong. Can understand that. However, the stubbornness on it really doesn't do anything for the sport of boxing and my greedy, selfish perspective, which is that I absolutely positively want to see Errol Spence Jr. beat Keith Thurman up. However, honest admission here, I'm also a Keith Thurman fan. I like Keith Thurman. I think he's a good fighter. He's an entertaining fighter. So, why not make that fight? However, it's this situation with Errol is not anything that I think is it's not going to sully my opinion on him if he doesn't fight him. And honestly, it's very, very clear the man has made his mind up. It's not like one of these situations that are out there that you see with these fighters, for example, Keyshawn Davis is a young fighter that I like, has already said he will not fight Shakur Stevenson because those guys are like brothers. Man, that stuff to me doesn't make any sense because, look, you're trying to be a world champion boxer. You got to get that job. That's a job you're applying for. And, just because if that's your goal, you can't let the fact that you're friends with somebody stand in the way of your goal from the perspective of just from his perspective. But from my perspective, again, I am stone cold with it. If you are not really related to that fighter, what difference does it make to boxing fans if you guys are friends or not friends? What difference does that make? Really, it doesn't make any difference to a boxing fan. And on top of it, there's all kind of boxers that have been friends that have fought with one another, that guys that really liked each other away from the ring and got in the ring and fought, for the championship. And, because that's where you say where you're fighting for legacy, you're fighting for friendship, right? You're fighting for money. When you refuse to fight in that situation, you are skipping out on legacy and you're skipping out on the money because that guy happens to be the biggest money fight. That's something Errol, however, I have to say, is not felt guilty of, has not been a party to, because he said he would be more than willing to fight Jermell Charlo if he had to fight Jermell Charlo at 154 to get those belts at 154 pounds. So, but as far as what's going on, him saying, yeah, man, he pretty much says, yeah, man, his only option at this point, really time at this 147 seems like it's Terence Crawford. So I definitely hope that fight goes through, but it'll be interesting to see how things play out. Anyway, that's all I got on the subject. Please let me know in the comment section what you think. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.